Welcome to the In the Hunt podcast. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, YouTube, and now Spotify. And don't forget to interact with us on Twitter at jmendel94, and Topher is found at Cochran108. If you want to have some one-on-one time, talk a little Dolphins, maybe talk about who knows what else. All right, let's get you up and get on with the show. Welcome back to the In the Hunt podcast. My name is Jake Bendel. I got my dog Gizmos here, and always Topher Cochran. Topher, no matter what we say in the next 10-15 minutes, the one thing we can agree is true is that no matter what happens on Sunday or today or any day, the Jets still suck.
That is true, 100%.
How you doing today?
Good. I got open house today. So I came home, open house. So right now I'm cooking dinner, and then I'm going to go get in my teacher outfit and go to open house. But that's not why we're here, though. Is
this like open practice?
Yes. Open practice.
So all the fans can come see how you're molding their children.
They get to walk through the facility. See where the tape room is, the weight room, all that stuff, or the classroom.
Exactly. It's basically football. But I did a little interview. Topher, you were not involved because you did school, I guess. With Gary Phillips of the JetsWire. We will get to that. But first, Topher and I are going to empty the tape tank for our Week 2 matchup between the 1-0 Jets and the 1-0 Dolphins. And we'll start here, Topher. Looks like DeVante Parker is going to play.
Does it really matter?
I wanted to ask the same thing because I think Parker does add another dimension to this offense, but is it worth dedicating X amount of targets a game to get Parker involved just to mess with the flow of the offense, I guess?
I don't think it's gonna mess with the flow. I just don't know how much it'll matter. If anything, I wish like they did a lot more things across the field, like in the intermediate, the deep part of the field.
And that's kind of what Parker's for.
That's what I want Parker or even Jaceki to be. Have Albert and Amendola go underneath, Stills kind of go deep on, and then you have Parker doing the same thing. But I mean, I'll take the talent. I don't think it's going to like ruin the flow of the offense or the chemistry. It's not like he hasn't played with them before.
Right.
He's just brittle, and we all know that.
And hopefully we can, squeeze all the good games out of him we can get. But you want to use him as much as you can before, he becomes a free agent. And like I said, about that. It's kind of like a running back where everybody gets dinged up, but if it's the final year of a contract, this is gonna sound terrible, and it's the Le'Veon Bell argument where you gotta use them while you have them. You can't be saving players. Let's talk about this for a second. Topher, how'd you feel about the Jets on Monday night? What was going through your head watching that game?
The first play of the game is what I expected from them. Like I was expecting like all right, it's just bad decisions, picks and all that. But then as the game went on, watching their defense, I was like, dear God, this game on Sunday is going to be annoying because the Jets look good. I mean, they don't look bad. They don't look like. I mean, what I mean by good is like they look like they're competitive.
They have a lot of talent at certain positions. They're definitely competitive.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to beat them. Like Darnold wasn't looking like Nathan Peterman out there.
Exactly.
Where like you're not like he looked like he was just a competent quarterback right now who could get the job done. And what kind of made me think was how they basically said that they knew the line signals.
Right.
So I don't know. Once they said that, I don't know how much you could take away from that.
Exactly.
Because do they know it because they had a former player or like was it just like overhearing something like that? I don't know. But I'm sure that when I heard that instantly, I was like, all right, so hopefully the Dolphins will change their signals up, which they might do because if you have the whole thing up where they change their game plan week to week depending on their opponent, then maybe you would think they would change everything else as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too worried about it because that's kind of what the Dolphins offense seems to be. It's all quick action reads where we're at the point. I don't know why Stafford didn't do it, and I talk a little bit about this with Gary later on in the podcast. I guess they were calling out screen, and Stafford would still throw a screen,
throw the screen.
Yeah, why? How hard is it to have a quarterback that's that unaware of what's going on. Where I think Gase, the offensive mind, they're going to be ready for that. The thing that scares me, though, is, even the Jets seem like to be a really quick twitch defense, which goes completely against what the Dolphins are trying to do, where it's a lot of reads and, 3-step drops, make the right throw, boom, get your 7 yards, repeat. It should be interesting, and I think it might be a little tough for the Dolphins to move the ball, especially in New York, where that crowd's going to be nuts. I know there's the MetLife takeover happening, which 3 sections at least is going to be full of Dolphin fans.
I just don't want a repeat of last year.
Oh my God, dude.
Where we thought the Jets were going to be terrible, and they weren't very good.
Right.
But at the same time, they made the Dolphins look awful.
Dude, I was at that game.
Yeah, and that was the game you were at, and so that's what I don't want. And so I really don't know what to expect because it's a road game. It's the Jets. Tannehill hasn't really showed that he can play well in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just kind of hopefully they just don't look like a disaster.
My counter to the he hasn't looked good. At least it's gonna be decent weather. There's gonna be no fuzzy hat that he has on or anything like that.
Fuzzy hat. The minute he puts that on, it's over. Just turn the channel.
Exactly. It's just going to be a brutal to watch. Don't play anyone in fantasy. Are you concerned Josh Sutton's been on the injury report for a couple days?
I'll get concerned when he doesn't play.
Same. He's an older guy. It's going to happen, and linemen miss weeks occasionally. If it's something, say he misses one game, I'm not too worried. Say we don't even know if he is going to miss a game. It seems like with linemen especially, they're always injured. And, you hear after the season about injury X, Y, and Z that no one ever talked about. I'm not too worried either.
It would not shock me if you get out of nowhere where he is out for the year. Like just something in his shoulder, bam, drop the news, drop the hammer right then and there and tell everybody. But yeah, we'll find out. We're gonna find out eventually. So that's why I'm not too worried about it.
Right.
And the expectation is whoever they put in to replace him has to get the job done.
Exactly.
It sucks. I wish we don't know if it's gonna happen, but you gotta expect this when you have a veteran offensive line. When you have when you sign these older guys like Josh Sutton,
right?
You gotta expect something like that. And it's a shoulder, so I'd be pissed if it was his knee, but it's a shoulder, and yes, you got to push off it. But there are things they could do to work around it. But we'll find out eventually when if he's not playing on Sunday.
Guards use their legs. You're 100% right. But he finished the game. Like I said, I'm not really too.
It was just weird. It was just weird. It just came out of nowhere.
So, are you scared or nervous about this game? Nervous would be, I guess, a little more all right, victory is very possible, and scared, I guess, is we're about to be in there.
I'm more scared because I do not want to hear or deal with the offense just taking complete crap. Where Tannehill's throwing for 53%.
If Tannehill throws for 53% and Darnold lights it up, Twitter's gonna be a mess.
Well, the thing is, this game can go a couple ways. It could completely go where the Jets played great on Monday night and then play awful on Sunday because
I was thinking that, right?
And then it could just be where both offenses just look awful, and it just comes down to a key play. Do I think they're gonna win? It wouldn't shock me, but I have not found enough. I don't have enough hope in this team where they could pull out a win on the road against the Jets like that. Because last week, say what you want about last week. Last week, I throw that out the window because the way it all happened, it's not going to happen again.
I think for both teams. I mean, I talked about this with Gary a little bit too, where the Jets aren't going to score 48 points every week, and Darnold's numbers then look that fantastic. Darius Slay left the game for the Lions. Ziggy Ansah left the game for the Lions. They knew the plays. That was literally the best case scenario, and I guess we could kind of look at it both ways where, all right, maybe they're on cloud 9 and, they don't prepare, they expect themselves to be good, or, maybe they're just that freaking good, and maybe the Dolphins just miss the wagon and have to restart behind now the Patriots and the Jets.
Yeah, that's the fear. I mean, that's kind of what you're expecting, right? That's the least shocking one is how, even the Bills to some extent got their 2 quarterbacks. And if they're good, then Miami's got to restart at some point.
That's kind of what –
that's the fear.
Last thing I'm going to tease with Gary is I asked him about how it kind of seems in the AFC East, everyone other than the Patriots thinks their team's the second best, and the other two teams just suck. And
it's fighting for second place.
Right.
That's all it is.
And he actually thinks the Dolphins are worse than the Bills.
I don't know how. That you could convince me on, like, you could talk. We'll talk about the Jets,
right?
But when you say the Bills, man, like I don't know how you can think that, even based off what you saw on Sunday.
Exactly. And it's just weird because we want to throw week 1 out for the Dolphins. It was a really weird game. You throw week 1 out for everyone. Of course, you could go to where, 20% of teams that start 0-2 make the playoffs. You can go to things like that. But it doesn't mean you got to start 2-0. I mean, 1-1 is okay. And no one ever remembers the first game is like to set the tone for the entire season. That's definitely not how it works.
No, I mean, the Dolphins destroyed the Patriots in week 1. And after that, they kind of, were just average.
There's a lot of questions I think will be answered, because if you can go into week 3, 2-0, we're looking ahead. We're not playing, so we're allowed to do that. If you can go into week 3, 2-0, and you have the Raiders coming all the way across the freaking country to play against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
For a 1:00 start, that should be like, I don't want to say no wins easy in the NFL, but that's a game you definitely
that's one of the easiest ones.
And then let's say you got some momentum running into New England.
Well, I mean, the schedule realistically, it's not far fetched to be 3-1 after 4 weeks,
right?
Because granted, that one loss would come against New England. Ideally, I would say it's 2-2. It's losing on Sunday and then beating the Jets, and then beating Oakland and then losing on Sunday against New England. That's what I think the likely scenario is, because I just kind of gave my prediction. Right. But the goal is to be 3-1 after week 4, quarter of the season.
What's your final score prediction?
20-17 Jets.
2017 Jets.
I don't think they'll win. I want the Dolphins to win, but I've just it's just, I don't know, man. It's the Jets. Like last year, I thought they were like with just having Jay Cutler.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh McCown isn't playing. For some reason, whenever Josh McCown plays, he just lights up the Dolphins. So yeah, I think the Dolphins will lose. I don't want them to lose, but that's kind of, they haven't proven me otherwise that they're a team that could do that on the road.
Exactly.
This early in the season. That's it. It just comes down to their track record.
And the Jets really do have some scary options. They don't have a tight end. And before I give my prediction,
they have Quincy Enunwa.
Quincy Enunwa playing over the middle. He's gonna be awesome. And then Robbie Anderson, the speed, the strength, where he ripped the ball out of someone's hands Monday night against the Lions. Where can Howard keep up with that speed? He's been a great cornerback this whole time, but it's a concern. Those receivers are definitely a concern. I suggest playing Quincy Enunwa. He might be the second best lock, quote unquote, for fantasy, behind maybe.
He's got to cover. Mika's got to cover him.
Let's hope, because that's gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
That's what you want, right? Like that's what you want, right?
Exactly. And you know what? I'm gonna kind of ride it where I think the Dolphins are gonna come in and make him look like a rookie quarterback. I think
that's the goal.
Jets, Patriot head coaches have horrible success elsewhere in the NFL. Opening night, Lions just I think they might be that bad. You know what? I'm gonna stick homerish here. We're going 2-0, and I'm saying 31-20, and I'm thinking special teams plays a huge role on both sides.
Well, they have to
for sure.
But that's what the Dolphins would have to do to succeed, right? Is just make Darnold look like a rookie.
Exactly. That's what it boils down to. And I think it's possible. I think, Mariota could have moved the ball well. You stopped the running game, which sounds a lot easier than it is, but they looked pretty good against the run week 1.
They look good against the run, but you got to hope that Darnold doesn't hold on to the ball, or holds on to the ball a little bit longer than what Tennessee was doing, because they were getting the ball really quick. That's why they had no sacks.
Exactly. That's the thing. Darnold is prone to mistakes, and the difference between the Dolphins, winning this game pretty easily and, maybe losing, falling to 1-1, is the fact that Darnold, make him get rid of the ball fast, make him overthrow receivers where, Rashad's in the middle of the field like he was against the Titans, just there to pick off any ball he can find because they're being airmailed because pressure's in his.
Yeah, that's what you got. You got to make him look like a rookie, but, I just think every other factor It really comes down to, is Tannehill going to play well? If he's playing well, then they win. If he's not, or the offense isn't getting anything going, and it always starts with him. The last thing that team needs is coming in to New York and playing like it's those preseason games where like the offense just doesn't get going over mental mistakes, and they get one drive before half.
Right now, real quick, let's jump to Gary Phillips, managing editor of the JetsWire, and hear what he's got to say about the current matchup for this weekend and basically his opinion about the Jets and the Dolphins. Gary, I want to start here. It seems like in the AFC East, it's the Patriots, and then there's three fan bases where they all think the same thing. They're going to be the team that comes in second and maybe gets a wild card, and the other two suck. So let's ignore last night's game real quick. What was your expectations for the Jets coming into the season?
My expectation was that they could compete for a wild card if a lot went right. This was a team that prior to Monday night had a lot of flaws that I still think exist following that game, as great a performance as it was. But this offensive line is questionable. The pass rush is questionable. Their tight end, Darnold thrives with a safety blanket in the middle of the field, and they don't really have a reliable tight end. Quincy Enunwa kind of made that a moot point on Monday, but there are still some flaws to that team. But with that said, flawed teams make the playoffs all the time. I mean, look at the Buffalo Bills last year. I think the Jets can pull out a wild card here.
Going into last night's game, and even, we'll say 5 minutes into the game, it definitely looked like, all right, Darnold's going to need some time. How quickly did your mentality of this team change? It's like, all right, we're down 7-0. Then it's, all of a sudden Stafford's out of the game and the Jets are doing everything they can to, just about dominate.
I wasn't all that worried about the you're referring to the pick six to start off the game, because the jury was kind of out on Darnold throughout the draft process and since the draft, and through his time with the Jets here. But the one thing everybody says about him is that he's unflappable. Nothing shakes him, nothing cracks him. So I expected him to come back and bounce back exactly the way he did. I didn't expect it to really faze him, and it didn't. And I think that's a tremendous trait for any quarterback, but especially a 21-year-old rookie in New York City.
I'm sure you've probably made some of the GIFs where it's him on the sideline with Josh McCown, and they're both doing the hair flip at the exact same time. How important has it been to, have him? Because I know after the pick six, he was the first one on the sideline, talking to him, trying to say, all right, just bounce back. You got this.
So as soon as Darnold threw the pick six, like you said, McCown's right there in his ear telling him everything's going to be fine. And Darnold kind of walks away from McCown and offensive coordinator Jeremy Bates. And then you can see McCown tell Bates, he's going to be fine. Don't worry about that. Don't change the playbook. Don't change the game plan. Stick with what we had. And it just goes to show you, not that Bates would have gone and changed everything if McCown didn't say something, but it's another person in Darnold's corner, somebody who's been there, somebody who's performed and succeeded in every possible role a quarterback can find himself in. So it's a tremendous asset, McCown's presence on the sidelines for Darnold. He is the perfect mentor for a young quarterback. He's the perfect teammate in general, not just for quarterbacks.
Let's kind of take a step back for a second, because they had Teddy Bridgewater. I thought it was a genius move. You pay, $500,000 and you end up getting a third-round pick. How different would, not necessarily the quarterback room, but the offense be in general if, say, it's Bridgewater backing up compared to, McCown?
I'm not sure it would be all that different, because one of Darnold's most underrated attributes is his mobility, and we saw that a lot on Monday. We're going to keep seeing it. Jeremy Bates made made good use of Darnold's leg. There was a lot of play action, a lot of RPOs, stuff that we didn't see last year when John Morton was in charge of the offense. And in a way, you kind of think of Bridgewater as the faster guy, but it's the same skill set. So I don't know that it would have been all that different.
That's understandable. And switching to the defensive side, Dolphin fans know Todd Bowles. He was the defensive coordinator for a while. Were you surprised when, reports started coming out where, the Jets players, it seemed to know the Lions offense and the Lions just weren't doing anything about it?
I was surprised about that, because, Matthew Stafford looked lost even before. He took some big hits in that game, and eventually it became clear that, something was off, something was hurting him. But even before that, him and the Lions offense just looked completely clueless. And like Lee said, the Jets knew what was coming, and it was obvious.
Right. Exactly. They were yelling screen before the play, and, Stafford wouldn't audible or anything. He'd still just, throw the screen and, be tackled for a 2-yard loss. Moving ahead to this week.
And just I was just going to say, a tremendous job by Darren Lee. He is the Jets defensive signal caller this year for the first time. He's a guy that's been ripped plenty and fairly throughout his young NFL career, but what a just tremendous breakout game for him.
I follow the Jets. I know most of the names, but I mean, Darren Lee's, you kind of think run stopper, that middle linebacker. For him to come out and have those interceptions, it really seemed like a huge wake-up call for him. And, Jamal Adams having a great game. And it just kind of showed that, okay, there's a lot of talent on this defense. While there might be some holes, they might be able to cover it up with, these players stepping up.
Right, exactly. If you got just a few guys putting pressure like Leonard Williams and, even Frankie Louvu, Henry Anderson did, they didn't record any sacks, but they created enough pressure on Stafford where that secondary is tremendous. I mean, give them an inch and they will take 5 interceptions.
Absolutely. As fans, we all hope, you're going to win every game, 48-17, but, it's not that simple. So we got the home opener for the Jets this weekend against the Dolphins. Couple things you've seen maybe out of the Dolphins or, from last season that might scare you going into this game?
So there's really only one thing, and, there was initially 2, and the second one my concerns were eased by how New York performed against Stafford in that Lions passing attack. I was thinking prior to Monday that maybe the Dolphins receivers could cause some trouble for New Jack City, but I'm not really all that concerned about that anymore. For me, the one thing is the pass rush. Like I said, the Jets don't have a rock solid offensive line, or at least one that's proven to be so far. And with Cameron Rake, Robert Quinn up front for the Dolphins, I could see that being a little bit of a problem for that line. And they break through, that's a chance to rattle Darnold a little bit. He didn't face a tremendous amount of pressure in his first start. He doesn't really know what that's like at the NFL level yet.
For sure. I think Ziggy Ansah left the game early against the Lions.
Yes.
Against the Lions. And, you're right, though. When you saw Darnold, slide to his left a couple times, he might have not been, running the fastest 40, but it just looks so smooth, so quick, where you kind of, see the acceleration and speed are two different animals. But looking ahead to this game, how much do you think, a home field advantage is going to play? Because I think back to last year when everyone thought the Jets, might not win a game. The Dolphins come to town, and I was actually at that game, sadly, and the Jets just dominated the Dolphins. How much do you think home field advantage could play into, this matchup?
Oh, I think it's going to be huge. I mean, just look at the crowd that the Jets had in Detroit on Monday night behind the bench. I think this place is going to be rocking, especially because now there's some evidence that, hey, Darnold's the real deal. Darnold can handle the pros. He can handle an NFL defense. I think Jets fans are going to come out in full force behind this kid and this team.
It definitely seems like it, and there's no one more passionate than a Jets fan. I don't know anyone else who'd wear an airplane on their head just to support their team.
They're a tortured bunch, so if they're still hanging around, that they're serious.
Exactly. What have you seen? Because it, like I kind of mentioned earlier, all the AFC East teams, you can kind of just throw them in a barrel. They're all kind of going to finish. The name of the podcast is In the Hunt, and we say that jokingly, but they're all going to finish. 7 to 9 wins most of the time. What have you seen out of the Dolphins where you're like, all right, maybe this team isn't, all it's cracked up to be. They aren't going to be that great. What have you seen as someone who, doesn't follow the team every day?
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I didn't get to watch the game the other day, but just from all the moves that they made over the offseason, it just seemed like they didn't have they weren't operating with much of a direction. They obviously lost some huge names, some big talent. And I just don't see them competing with, New York, Buffalo, and then obviously New England. I think there's a lot of lacking star power there in Miami.
For sure. And to kind of bounce back to the Jets, they have such a young team. Do you see this? I mean, you never want to lose. You never not want to crush the team. But do you ever think there might be a week 1 hangover, prime time, best possible scenario where they're kind of maybe on cloud 9 a little too long?
There definitely could be, especially like you said, a young team. But this is also a team that has preached focus, preached defying expectations, preached, a concentration and an attitude and a culture that wasn't necessarily around the last few years. So if they're serious about all those things and they mean what they've been saying all summer, then that would be a pretty poor look against this Dolphins team.
One of the biggest weaknesses the Dolphins have is covering the middle of the field, especially against tight ends. And you kind of mentioned it with Quincy Enunwa, where he can kind of fill that role. Can you give me maybe 2 to 3 players who you think, if these guys have a good game for the Jets, they could potentially, just walk over the Dolphins and have, be looking 2-0 right in the face?
So like you said, Enunwa's yesterday filled that, not necessarily tight end role, but that safety blanket over the middle of the field for Darnold. He targeted him 10 times. I expect that to be a very popular tandem throughout the rest of the season. But then you also had Robbie Anderson only have one big play on only one big attempt. Darnold took that 41-yard bomb and found Anderson in the end zone. Expect Anderson to get some more looks his way down the field because, one, obviously he's got the speed to get there, but two, as Darnold continues to settle in, continues to get comfortable, he's going to take more shots deep.
Right. Gary, thank you so much for joining us. While we get ready for the week, is there any type of articles you have planned, anything you want to plug where, Dolphin fans can kind of sit there and be like, all right, these are the type of things we want to look out for coming this weekend?
Nothing in particular, but we're going to have a load of content coming up on the site like we do every single week. So, yeah, for all those Dolphins fans that want to stay in the know on the opponent, JetsWire is the place to check out.
I'm still just really surprised that, other teams, nobody gives the Dolphins any respect. They don't expect this team to be good whatsoever after losing Landry and Sue. And the one question, I didn't really talk to Gary about this because I wanted to hear what he had to say. But this team wasn't good last year with Landry and Sue leading the way. Why do people think, if when you're bottom of the barrel, the only place you can go is up? The Dolphins weren't a great team last year.
I think it's because when you just lose guys that are names,
right.
They have the accolades. Sue had the money and he has the success. Landry has the success. He got the money.
Right.
And so anytime you lose those guys that you think it's going to be this huge factor, but, you replace them. I saw the stat with Barry Jackson. He tweeted it out that if you combine Amendola's and Albert Wilson's stats for that game against Tennessee, it was equal to Landry's average as in a game.
Right. And it doesn't include the fact that it's so much harder to cover 2 people instead of 1. I mean, it seems like simple math, but I don't know. And then when you look at the Jets, yeah, week 1 was awesome. That's going to happen. You're going to have great weeks. The Jets might be good, but it's so early to say Darnold's the future. Darnold's the guy. It just.
That's their goal, but you don't know.
Exactly.
And he could be. But once again, it's the Jets, so it's that whole New York atmosphere of, they play good game on national television. It's them.
Next Joe Namath, boom.
Yeah, right yeah. It's that irrational stuff, and that's part. What I want is just fire. I want to see a picture of Fireman Ed just looking like a doofus.
Do you mean any picture of Fireman Ed?
Yes.
But Topher, it's Jets week. It's a division week. Our Tuesday episode did awesome. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much.
We're doing great. I hope you guys are doing great. Check out our Twitter, MIA in the Hump. We still have In the Hump bingo. Play that. You can jump in any week. Your chance to win a game of your choice. Topher, where can you find this podcast?
You can find us on iTunes. Just go to iTunes, on a little podcast app on your iPhone. Go to iTunes, type in Miami Dolphins or In the Hunt Miami Dolphins. You can find us on Twitter. We tweet out so much, Jake. Was it you that was going crazy the other day with the meme? You sent out that meme?
Yep.
Did great success. You're the meme king, apparently.
We gotta keep it coming. And the only way to see what's coming, follow us.
Yes, on Twitter. What is the handle, Jake?
MIA in the Hunt. But if you say you don't like me and you like Topher, Cochran 0108. Other way around, J Mendel 94. You can pick and choose. Social media is wild. Topher, I want to end this podcast the same way I started it. It is Jets week, and no matter what happens, the Jets suck. Fins up.
Fins up. Jets suck. Bye.